He played for the Warriors. It was the same.
Tēta Whana, please stand for the whakatauki. A Mudiak here, whakalonga, okay, as always, onwards and upwards. Welcome, councillors, staff, members of the public, the media. I don't think we have an apology, do we? No, we haven't got an apology. Do we have declarations of interest? Do we have any late items or urgent business? And I'm seeing some stuff here. Late items?
No, Your Worship, I said they were explanations of the chair.
Explanations, right, so we don't have to worry about that. We do have a member of the public. Welcome, Brody. Where's Brody? Kia ora, Brody. Please come on forward, come up to the rostrum. As you know, we're violin string for time today, but lovely to have you here and the floor is yours.
Sorry, I've got my laptop today.
Maybe just make sure you get the microphone.
So yeah, I know you're restricted for time today, so I'll try and speak very quick. Thank you very much for allowing me the time today. I'm here as a representative on behalf of Forever Homes. Forever Homes is an incredible animal rescue and rehoming charity that is based in Invercargill and is currently run by 3 volunteers from Otago Southland. It is a non-profit organisation that receives zero funding from government. We rely solely on fundraising and donations from supporters in the public. We use foster homes to house and rehabilitate dogs and cats and get them into their new homes. All dogs are desexed, wormed, vaccinated, microchipped and registered prior to rehoming, and if not yet of age to be desexed, are rehomed on desexing contracts to prevent unwanted litters in the community. We also work alongside councils across New Zealand that undergo property inspections on our behalf and checks to make sure that we are rehoming dogs into suitable homes. At the request of some councils, we will only rehome dogs into other districts to prevent these dogs getting back into the hands of their previous owners. Many come from horrible situations, and it takes time for them to learn to trust humans again and regain their health after often being starved and neglected. Scroll down. Forever Homes was originally established to stop impounded dogs in the Invercargill and Southland area from losing their lives through no fault of their own. However, as the rescue has grown, we do take on dogs from elsewhere in New Zealand. It is my understanding that the Clutha District Council has only recently, in the past couple of years, begun rehoming the unclaimed and surrendered dogs that come into their care, and that prior all unclaimed or surrendered dogs were euthanised. I received the statistics regarding the last 3 years and was happy to see that of the 33 unclaimed pound dogs which came through the Clutha District Council pound in the last 2 years, 23 of those were able to be rehomed. 10 were unfortunately still euthanised, which shows there does need to still be a little bit more work done around this. Of these 23 dogs that were rehomed, none would have been done on desexing contracts. So this means there is still a possibility for them to be contributing to unwanted litters in the community. With the financial strain being put on people across New Zealand, we're only going to see an increase in dogs and puppies being dumped, and that is going to increase the workload for councils. We at Forever Homes would like to help the Clutha District Council provide solutions to these issues and find homes for these dogs. So in May 2024, I approached Mark, who was one of the 3 rangers for the Clutha District Council, about Polly, a young collie who had been picked up on the passing lanes near Waira South, who was at the time in the pound. I'd reached out to Forever Homes and we organised for her to be advertised on the Forever Homes page to see if we could get her a home, but unfortunately there was no interest in her, so we organised for her to come into foster with myself. It was after that I was asked to join the Forever Homes team as they were struggling with the workload that was coming through. This meant the Southland-based rescue charity was now able to extend up into the Clutha District. Prior, they didn't really have too much to do with it up here. And Clutha District's actually in kind of no man's land. The SPCA's in Dunedin and Invercargill, and we're stuck in the middle with not really anyone doing too much. So since then, without much advertising, we've assisted in desexing, microchipping, registering, vaccinating and rehoming 12 dogs within the Clutha District, with 3 being from the pound. We've currently got 8 dogs ranging from 9 weeks old to 6 years old in foster in the Clutha District. We have another 3 dogs needing rehomed in the Clutha District area that we're currently working with at the moment. So I put together just a bit of a list of costs since starting this. So we have 15 dogs up till now. 3 obviously still looking for their homes. And so Polly was the Clutha District Council pound dog. She was de-sexed by us at a cost of $450, microchipped and registered by the Clutha District Council. There was Marlowe. He was also a Clutha District Council pound dog picked up from Clinton. That cost us $504 for his de-sexing. Microchipping and registered was through Clutha District Council. And I could go on. I'll send this out so that you can get a copy of it rather than me going through it all. But yeah, there has been 12 dogs rehomed, with 3 currently undergoing it. Off those 12 dogs, only one of them was actually registered. The cost to Forever Homes, once we vaccinate, de-sex, microchip, do the whole lot, is going to be around $6,000 to $6,500 for these 15 dogs, and we have to get funding through doing fundraisers and asking people for money to help with this. The current cost that we have spent so far on those dogs is $3,717.65. We also help with rehoming other animals, so cats, birds, chickens, goats, fish, the whole lot. We've rehomed a cat called Squeak from Balclutha, Sam from Milton, and currently trying to find a home for Tommy the ragdoll. So all Forever Homes dogs are vaccinated, which helps reduce the spread of parvo, which is something that is quite prevalent in pounds across New Zealand. We also work alongside many local authorities, vets and other rescue organisations in New Zealand. We'd like to add the District Council to that list. Like the Southland District Council, they offer us free microchipping and free dog registration, and that come through Forever Homes through the pound, and we are asking that the District Council do the same for us. Currently, dogs from the Southland District Council area are registered to Forever Homes at an address of one of our admins. So the same thing would happen up here. All dogs would be registered to a home for Forever Homes care of myself, and they would be registered to my address. So once these dogs are rehomed, we change the ownership over to the new owner, who has been vetted to make sure that they're a suitable dog owner, and that then makes the dog traceable. So these dogs, off the 15, only one originally was registered. If we had to pay for microchipping and registering of all these 15 dogs, that would have added another $1,500 to our costs. Clutha District Council will not be losing any money by giving us the free registration and microchipping, but instead making these dogs traceable and gaining future revenue from these dogs. So if these dogs were all to be rehomed back into the Clutha District, and they live for 6 to 10 years, that's going to be a future revenue base on the current registration amount that we currently see this year of $594 to $990. So yeah, that's Clutha District Council website also states there's approximately 7,000 dogs registered in the Clutha District, but I'd suspect the number of unregistered dogs is likely in the thousands. So we can help take those dogs that are unregistered, unvaccinated, not de-sexed, and get that done with the help of the Clutha District Council. So to finish this off and get to the point, we're not asking for any funding, but we're just instead asking that the Clutha District Council allow Forever Homes free microchipping and waiving of the registration fees for each dog that comes into our care only from the Clutha District and through the Clutha District Council pound. This will enable us to be part of the solution by increasing traceability to what we can already see is going to be a growing problem. We look forward to fostering a working relationship with the Clutha District Council, as well as Karen, Mark and Michelle, and to help where we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Brodie. Pretty thorough. Questions too. Councillor Finch, followed by Graham.
Thank you. Great presentation. You're aware that Clutha Vets we rehome cats, and there has been dogs rehomed as well. If they come in, they are tried to be rehomed and rescued if they need to be.
Yeah.
Because when I left, which is just over 3 years ago now, we had rehomed over 2,000 cats.
Yeah. And so we've also approached Clutha Vets as well, because we will work alongside them as we do with Vet South. So Vet South is the main one that they use down in the Cargill Way.
Yeah.
We don't currently have an account with Clutha Vets, but we have rehomed one of the dogs that they had surrendered to them. That was in I think he was hit by like a trailer on a motorbike, lost both his sight. Clutha Vets did the surgery, saved the dog, but at the end of the 7 days, if they couldn't find him a home, he would have had to have been put down. So we took him into care. So we are working alongside, especially they can, like we want them to be able to rehome the easy dogs, but if there's at the end of that 7 days, we will quite happily take those dogs into foster.
Great. So with the cats, what are you going to do to work alongside them for the cats?
So I've spoken with Sharon up at the Clutha Vets as well, and we've offered fostering service. So quite often when a mum cat comes in and she's pregnant, we can find fosters for them to go into and help cover the costs in that.
So you're going to do that for Milton as well?
For Milton as well, yeah. So we're slowly growing up. Currently it's just myself up this way, but we're working towards it.
Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Brodie. I was going to mention about how do you de-sex the fish, but I won't.
No,
You said you get dogs from Invercargill up here. You bring dogs from Invercargill, you rehome them up here.
yep, so they're rehomed all over.
So will that go the other way as well?
Yes,
Right.
yep. So sometimes I've currently got a few dogs in foster myself that have come from down south. So they're registered at Southland District. If they come out of the Southland District, they're registered down there. At the moment, Southland District Council obviously don't want to register dogs that have come from up here because it's a cost to them. But we have rehomed in the last 4 months that I've been with River Homes. We've rehomed about 8 dogs into the Clutha District. So it goes both ways. So some of the dogs that we would get free microchipping and registration up here might end up going down south or going to Dunedin, but we do take dogs from other areas as well. So sort of swings and roundabouts.
Excellent, thank you.
Anything further, Tane? I'll just try, Councillor Payne.
Thanks, Your Worship, and welcome, Brodie. Can you just say again, because I'm not sure what I heard, how many dogs did you speculate are unregistered in the Clutha District?
Based on, like, if we look at Southland District Council and the amount, pretty much 90% of the dogs that come through Forever Homes aren't registered. We get the ones that don't want to drop it to the council because they're scared they're going to get a fine because they've got an unregistered dog. So the majority of the dogs that we see come through are unregistered. So off those 15 for the Clutha District that we've seen in the last 4 months, only one of those was registered. So I would suspect, I haven't got an actual figure, but
Did you say 1,000 or 1,000?
we'd be thinking it would be in the thousands.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I was thinking of the mechanisms moving forward. So you've requested that we give consideration to it. I'll ask the staff, Steve, so paper to council, how do we bring it to a conclusion?
Yeah, so through your worship, it would be something along those lines. It's just a bit of a review. We've talked to the animal services team. They're already talking and working with Brodie's outfit, absolutely. So this just means that we'll have a look at what we can and can't do, and if it's something that we don't have delegation for, it'll be a paper or annual plan. So
Is that where you're heading? Done. Anything else, Tim? If not,
Just
Brad,
send us those facts from you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
thank you for that, Brady. Appreciate the thorough presentation. Team was remiss. We've got 2 on the screen there. Welcome, David. So everyone will know David, Audit and Risk, David Ward. Also, we've got for representation review, we've got Ben Rosa there as well. So welcome, Ben. My apologies for not picking up on it in the initial introductions. And with no further ado, we'll get right into what David's been waiting eagerly for, which is the adoption of the annual report. Who did it? Sharon. Is it Sharon that's wanting to? Welcome, Sharon.
Additional information.
Kia ora, team. Okay, so following the risk and insurance meeting on the 10th of October, we spent quite a bit of time talking to Audit about the 3 things we highlighted then that we were still negotiating with them, which was the IT digitisation project, the impairment on development properties, and classification of our Taylor Park cabins for resale. And we've managed to work through all those and get an adjusted annual report out to you last Friday after a few discussions with them. Since then, and so we got this out to you with this recommendation on it. And since then, we've been working with, we've had a review by staff, by David, by some councillors as well, and by Audit. And the last of those comments came back last night. So we worked through most of them and thought that today it would be really good to be able to provide you with a copy of those like CE edits to date to have a look at. So the pages in front of you are incorporating the edits that we have managed to get through this morning. Di and myself, and they're marked in red on your piece of paper, so you should be able to see them really clearly. And in addition to that, the other piece of paper I gave you was the representation letter that came through last night from audit as well. That there is a recommendation asking Brian and Steve to sign that today. And it just outlines the process that audit has gone through to complete the audit, and it has some unadjusted errors on the end of it, which they relate to the treatment of the digitisation project mainly, and that last year we had it classified as a capital item and it went through the audit that way, and this year it's now had to be classified as software as a service, so that's made a difference where it sits. It has been corrected, but the unadjusted error is about the timing of that, with most of the cost being last year, some being this year. And that will all disappear off there next year. What else did I have? Also, in addition to, since the 10th of October meeting, we've had to add a note about subsequent events, and that's just a bit around how we've had the flooding event, and currently we can't quantify what that means to us. We know it's going to have an impact, but we just, until we work through all the damage and all the repairs and insurance claims and ZTA funding, we can't quantify that. So that's just in there as saying it's happened. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions to Sharon?
Unless David has any further comment.
Were you, sorry, Chair, were you going?
Oh, yes, I can go through the adjustments one by page and explain them if you wish.
It's good, just that the council hasn't seen it.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to share.
Yeah, that's cool, no problem.
Keep enough on the.
Piece of paper. Actually, maybe I should-
You want this one?
Yes, please.
So if we could have it that Sharon goes through the variances and we ask questions on the changes, then once we've basically got this in our head, then we ask the questions on the wider that you would have prepared for last night. So if we keep this bit just to the changes, so that we're then up to the accepting this, go for it, Sharon.
Okay, so the first, there's two financial overviews in this. One is from the summary and one is from the actual document. The first one is we're starting with the actual annual report document. And on this, there's two red numbers on the top left, and that's those where we updated the financials but didn't update the note around the adjustments we made after the 10th. And the bottom of that page relating to the cash flows is the same thing. We had done the financials but hadn't flowed through to all the notes and the cash flow updating as well. So just sing out if you've got any questions about any of these. The next page, page 9.
Yeah, okay, let's do it while we're doing it. It's 2.1 million and 2.2 million and the difference in there. Sharon, I'm not quite getting why there's the change in the figure. What happened?
Right. Sorry.
You know how you got the major variances and budget explained, and we got the two red figures. From the figure that I read last night till now, there's 2.1 million difference in the first figure and 2.2 in the second, and I'm not sure why. What happened?
The difference between
The table has it correct.
the table has it correct. It would have been correct in the table last night.
Oh, yeah.
The table to the right. It's that we didn't update the note on the left when we flowed it through the table.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, so on page 9, we had updated the rates, limits, and forecasts and stuff, but we hadn't updated the wording above it. It's still referred to last year, to the long-term plan and last year.
21.
The next page, the roading amount on page 20, that was a typo. It said 1560 and it should have said 1580.
Yeah, and one's on the work.
Page 9.
Yeah,
Sharon,
what numbers? What numbers are on the bottom of the page?
Yeah, I got 9 links in back to 8.
Mine's 20.
One goes to 9.
Trust me, I.
Should go 920.
Yes.
Third page then?
What is page in this page 8?
Yeah, so then we bounce a couple and go to page 20. It's an expurgated.
The summaries first, and then it's the annual report. So just one together.
That's definitely different.
To the bottom. You number 20. Yes, 9 page before.
Couldn't make it anymore.
Oh, did you?
East Goalies. Yeah. Edit.
Good. Okay, so That's page 20. The next page should be page 26. Okay, and following the 10th of October meeting as well, we changed how it might have been prior to the 10th of October meeting actually, we changed how this was done and had a Becker report. But unfortunately, when we put the document back together, this table was not updated for the current year, so this is a whole replacement table. The table that was in the original you had was back to last year's 22-23 table. The next page is page 47, and that's simply to update the date that we're actually adopting, because we were originally doing that on the 17th. Page 51 is also about the flow-through effects of the changes we made to the face of the financials following the 10th of October meeting. It's just the follow-through of the cash flow changes of making the adjustments for where the IT sits and the impairment in the cabins, and page 52 is exactly the same reasoning. Page 59, there's a change to the remuneration for senior management, and this is to, we did not have any allowances for any vehicles included in that number, so we've now gone and put that in. And that is also reflected on the next page, page 60. Page 81 is the number here's been, it's been changed by $1,000 to make it equal to page before. One was 1217 and one was 1216. Just a rounding issue. The next page, page 99, it's also a flow-through effect of the changes we made. And page 102 is also a flow-through effect. It's just the graph is updated for the operations control benchmark. Okay, the next page, and hopefully yours is right here, John. It doesn't have a number on it, but it's all these graphs. So this one was updated because the top row of these, the three at the top, they had reverted to last year's as well. So we've updated them back to. That's in the summary. The next page is also the summary. And here it just has had a sentence removed. And the next page is also page 9. And it's exactly the same adjustment as the second page we looked at. Flow through effects. And the summary also has the note added on page 11 around the subsequent events for the flooding. There's still one or two things we're talking to audit about, and it's just minor grammatical sort of things. So there will still be a couple of CE edits following today.
Okay, team, specifically on the variations, does anyone have any questions? And also, can you please tell me if you haven't absorbed it as such and you need time to absorb it? I've got one question, just on page 11 of the back notes, if you know what I mean, subsequent events. Why has an annual report that goes from July 1st, 23 to June 30, 24, got an event that happened in October, 3 months after the close-off point? And I can't see why, if we were air, that's out, we don't, October's in next year's annual report.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, we have to do it every year. And this morning, Steve and I had to fill out a big questionnaire as well around subsequent events. It's just to give audit the surety that nothing massive has happened that's going to have an impact on what they're signing off on. Like if we had to start something catastrophic, we had to come up with millions of dollars and they've just signed off that we're doing okay, they might rethink that. It's just to make sure that nothing that's happened between the date at the end of the year and them signing that we've done okay, nothing catastrophic's happened that's going to have an impact.
Your Worship, Sharon, is it accounting convention or is it actual accounting principles that brings in subsequent events?
It has to come in, it's the law to come in. Just to mention it, yeah. It could be that you're facing a big cost for something, you just need to say, we're facing a big cost for this, and so they're aware of it.
You know, like, I've never done subsequent events when I've done the forward, because I'd always try and get your brain into the end of it, so that's right.
Yeah.
I
Your
just didn't think.
I recall, was it the previous annual report or something that there was always something coming up that you would have the same argument about, but we had to reflect it. And we used to actually do a bit of a moan that we were further down the track in getting our annual report done compared to some other councils. And actually it applied to the long-term plans too, didn't it? In terms of how they audited long-term plans. Those that got in early obviously didn't have to worry about anything later. The longer you took to go through the process, the more things that could crop up that you then have to reflect in subsequent events.
And through you, Your Worship, even if there is nothing, you have to say there is nothing.
Okay, it's just an anomaly in the weird world of finance. Including David, is there anyone got any questions on the variations before we go into the overall questions on the... Everyone sweet? Got in the head? Oh, Councillor Martin.
Through you, Your Worship. Sharon, the remuneration, the 544, was it vehicles you were saying?
Through you, Your Worship, yeah, that was the difference, is it was the vehicle allowance. So you might have a total remuneration package, but you'll have a deduction for vehicles if you have a council vehicle. You have to pay to have that vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't originally included, and it should have been.
And below that, we've got full-time equivalent employees of 2, so is that for 2 vehicles?
If both people have a vehicle, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, team, we'll now go back to Sharon doing the wider. We've done the variations. Now is there anything you wish to add to your report?
No, not from me, thank you. I'm just that there's a couple of minor things still to tidy up with audit. It's just providing them clarification of how we've done something and writing up some grammatical errors.
Hang around, David, at this point, did you want to have say something?
Firstly, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
No, Mr Mayor, councillors, good afternoon. I sent around a note earlier this week acknowledging that I had met with both key staff and also the auditors on a number of occasions subsequent to our last R&A meeting. I've been through the changes, both those presented on Monday and also the further ones that Sharon has presented to you today. And I'm comfortable, Mr Mayor, that those fairly reflect the position of the council. I've also got a draft copy in front of me of the independent auditor's report. It's probably just worth mentioning a couple of key things that they were saying in there. They acknowledge there is an unmodified opinion on the audited information. The financial statements on pages 48 through 98 present fairly and comply with the generally accepted accounting practice. They acknowledge the statement about capital expenditure for each group of activities on pages 17 through 45 presents fairly, and also the funding impact statement for each of those activities presents fairly as well. I go into some detail on the qualified opinion, which is to do with the inability we had to measure some of the performance assessments that were inherited under the 3 years contract that was taken over in early July. They know the emphasis of matter and concur with Sharon and Steve's comments on that. So all in all, very happy, Mr Mayor, and satisfied that council should proceed to adopt the report at today's meeting.
Thank you for that. So, councillors, will first go to questions to the team, and we'll have the latitude to go to David as well for questions. Do the questions, then we're going to general discussion. So, questions on any part of the report. Councillor Barron.
Thank you, Your Honour. Sharon, on page 62, my name appears there, and that paper page, I think, represents declarations of interest. Would that be correct?
Through you, Your Worship, it's also related parties, so we have to look at each councillor and anybody that we've transacted with that you have an affiliation with. It's not quite as simple as a related party. It used to be very short. but then audit expanded it, and now you don't have to be on the governing board, you just have to be a member.
Yeah, my question is, it's got our Clutha Bowling Club council representative. I'm not a council representative,
Correct.
I'm a member.
Thank
But just to add to what may be missing from there is that myself and Councillor Phelps are council representatives on the Joint Control Committee of the South Otago AMP Association. And I just wonder whether that should be in that report, or because the council pay the maintenance and the rates and the power and the insurance for that entity, and we're representatives of that entity.
Thank you, I will check that.
And also they come with submissions. So, yeah, they have in the past. Yeah.
And two more questions. On page 89, and Steve may be able to answer this, but this report is from June 23 to June 2024, and it's got opportunities fund there and an opening balance of 78,000. In January that year, there was 88,000 in that fund, and we paid out 58,000 to an individual for, well, you'll know what it's about. It was under public, whatever it's called. So how did the money go from 78,000 from, there was 88,000, we took out 50,000, which left 30,000, is it? And now it's 78,000.
Through you, Worship, I would have to check that because looking at this, nothing has come out of it.
The email from Steve says, I approved payment to the community hub after I cited references and cited the financial approval. That was in January 2023.
Outside the 23, that's outside
Year
the
before.
report.
Year before.
July the 1st, 23 to
Yeah.
June 23.
There was $88,000 in it at that point. And so we had a big discussion about that opportunities fund, whether we're going to close it down or keep it going. And I just wondered how the additional money got in there, or whether it hasn't been deducted from that, from the report, from the paper.
Good question, I'll have to go back and check the year before for you.
You know,
I'll go back and check the year before for you, see if something else went in.
And that would be covered in Steve's signing off of minor adjustments, whatever the wording was. Yep, done. Last,
and
further
the
questions?
last question, and I'm not sure, on page 88 it says trust funds and restricted. Now, I'm not sure what that means, but I just saw at the bottom of it, it's got Clinton endowment land. Now, again, the Clutha District Council sold some endowment land, and that money was to be ring fenced for the benefit of the Clutha District Council. And I just wonder, I couldn't find it anywhere else in the report. Should it be on that page, or should it be somewhere else in this report?
And through you, Your Worship, it is included in the other reserves. It's quite a bit, but it'll be in the general funds part.
You don't know what page, I couldn't find it.
It's on page 90 and it's about 6 up from the bottom, and it's got a balance of 663,000.
Thank you.
Further questions, David? Councillor Bolwell.
Thank you. My question goes back to page 77. Sorry. And it's the heading local government disclosures. And it says, in relation to each group of activities, the second paragraph down, councillors incurred internal borrowings during the financial year as reflected below. It makes it sound to me as though all those borrowings there have been our internal borrowings.
Through you, your worship, they are,
107 million
correct,
dollars.
correct. The borrowings during the year is the amount that we've borrowed internally. And so for that last year, we borrowed just almost 39 million internally, which is funded by our external debt as well.
Yeah. So you don't add it twice. Well, one person.
It's our internal finance function, yeah.
So let me just, the internal is shown in the external debt. And that's where that confusion and a confusing meeting came from. Further questions, Tina? Councillor Herbert.
Mine's a quick correction, I think. I'm on page 7 of the original document, and it says at the bottom, $843 spent on Marflat reservoir renewals.
Thank you.
And it's got an E in flat. We don't have an E.
Thank
We're
you.
not fancy up there. Is that supposed to be 843,000, or is it supposed to be?
Through you, your worship, yes.
Should be K.
Yes,
Yeah,
it should be K.
thank you. Take the E off and put the K in.
So I've got a few questions. My apologies for this being the report. And in asking the questions, I'm not having to go at anyone. I know that we've got to move this today, or there is ramifications, but I do think it's an opportunity where we make sure that what happened this year is not to be replicated. So the first one that I go to is page 8. And there's a number of, I just kept circling figures where we had actual budget, 5.5 million, 3.4 million, 1.3, 5.1. There was a lot of, and they're all heading in the one direction. We don't have latitude in our ability to borrow this year like we did last year. And definitely if we have a page 8, the cumulative effect of all those overruns, we would blow our debt limits. Yeah, we would. That's the only one. We can't go rates on it. So what is the opinion of what have we got in place to make sure that the page 8 overruns are not going to happen again this year? And how sure are we as we enter, go roll into this year, that it's not already happening? Because it's no use showing a page when it's too late. We've got to get ahead of it.
Yeah. So, Your Worship, I mean, if you look at the key determinants of what that was in relation to expenditure, if you've got a significant valuation increase, then depreciation is going to happen. How often do we value? It's not each year in that sense, but that's reflective of that situation. So that's you will be on the receiving end of that every time your assets are going upwards. The things that we have control over, but didn't have control over last year, is some of the operating expenditure, which includes the personnel costs. And so the argument is that this LTP, we should have rebalanced the issues associated with those budgeting. Because when we say unbudgeted expenditure, that was the Three Waters transition and the restructure related to that in terms of the increased staff numbers and things like that. And so those are all unbudgeted, and that's why you're seeing that big differential. So moving forward, we have rebalanced the budgets because you approved the long-term plan. We, I've said to Linda and her team, they only had 12 months worth of activity, and when we did budgets, we hadn't completed 12 months of activity when we did the long-term plan budgets. That she needs to be advising us early if we are, how close are we to what the actual operational costs are? Because we've said to her she needs to be operating according to budget, right? But she's also said, don't forget that we didn't get to the end of the period with knowing exactly what we had. So we'll know in the next month or two. We should get our first indications. The point will be is that we should have nowhere near variances that we had because they were unbudgeted. We're budgeted, and so we're now looking to refine Three Waters related operational expenditure. So we should be so much more closer to that. In relation to the rest of the matters, we should be pretty close. So we should be expecting to be working within those budget constraints. But we just had those big unbudgeted shifts.
So somewhere in here, we're 2 million ahead in borrowing for this year than what we thought we were going to be. About 2, it might be 1.9 from memory. What we've done here, what page 8 shows us that we've had budget overruns. The only place we've had to get the money from was debt. So now instead of going to debt, we've actually acknowledged it in our budget. But are we still borrowing, and therefore we're borrowing to pay for day-to-day operation?
Answer yes. Why, Your Worship?
Because we've got no choice.
Well, let's explain. What did the LTP, when you set the budgets, did you set revenue to equal expenditure? No, you didn't. You had revenue and then you subsidised and reduced it by saying we weren't going to put rates up that high. We were going to subsidise the rates over time. What does that mean? Your revenue that you need to pay for your activities rates will not supply that revenue. So what do you have to do? You have to borrow to do that. And that is the decision you made in the LTP. So the answer is
yes.
We're going to have
So that was for the first 3 years, wasn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah, so for the first 3 years. So you know how we've had lots of discussions of how is the debt more than what we thought? Even though we're still acknowledging it, we are still borrowing for operational. And that's where your figure is going to come in. That's where it happens. So I'm sorry that I'm getting
Your Worship. Two different things. One is you should hold us to account for meeting budget.
Yeah.
And our job is to say, hey, we're still thinking to look at refine Three Waters, but we should be held to account for budget because that's we've refined. We've brought budget back to where it should be to reflect actual costs. But the second thing is just be aware that the revenue that we're going to be getting will require debt to cover operational costs that we're not getting the revenue for. So two different things.
So as I see this is our report card, and I used to try and explain to my mother the report card. Didn't work well either there when I think of it, but this is our report card. And it's a chance to actually see, and page 8, it's a bit of a valve bouncer, and there's a few others, but that's what it is. So if we went to page 48, and I'm now dwelling on something, but it's just because the figures aren't adding up. We've got employee benefits halfway down that page 48, 13.2. It was budgeted 9.8. So that's a considerable amount. Then I went over to page 58 and it had personnel. The figures weren't lining up. We were at 13, then we were at, where's the figure on that one? The salaries. So the question that I want to ask is that we've had over 50% increase in salaries, but the staffing numbers have gone from 165 to 201 that was reflected on page 60. So is there anything else that's happened in staffing? Because they weren't lining up to me. We've only had the increase of whatever, that would be 25% increase, 165 to 201, we'd less 23, but we've had a 50% increase. The overall increase in salaries wasn't big enough. So something's not lining up with me with the different figures on salaries. Is there something I'm missing?
Can you go back to your first one that you said? Because I just want to I didn't catch up with.
So on page 48, halfway down, 13.209 has gone up from 9844. So we budgeted 9.844 million, but we actually spent 13.2. I'm thinking, okay, that's Crown Street, you've taken it on, what have we done? But when I went over to page 58, it triggered me because we're only taking on 25% more staff, 165 to 201, and yet we've still got 50% increase in staffing. Is there something I'm missing here? Because can't see where the staffing figure comes from, knowing what the annual increase, average increase was.
Well, we didn't, there's not a one-to-one relationship, Your Worship, between the staffing that came across, the staffing that is attributed to Three Waters and 1 July. What I mean by that is, it wasn't 100% of Three Waters staffing that came across in July. It was also earlier than July. So your starting FTEs do include staff prior to 1 July that would have been part of the transition requirements and building to the 1 July change. So we received some staff in 1 July from Citycare, for example, right? But we were building and having numbers. And so the annual report for the previous year, when you're reflecting FTE numbers and trying to say, hey, the percentages don't match, there was a reasonable number of Three Waters personnel in the FTE numbers as of 30th of June, right? So there is that aspect of it. And then we do know that 3.1 million or more, was it 3.1? Yeah, 3.1 million is of the increase is attributed to the Three Waters, direct and indirect Three Waters increase in staff numbers. So I think you just be careful around that. I know what you're calculating, but the FTEs related to Three Waters were not only those ones that you've just calculated from the increase in 1 July, they were also before that because of the transition.
Yeah, but it's just that we budgeted 9,844,000, but we spent 13,209,000, which is 3.38 or something. And it's still not quite.
Well, yes, it's 3.1 million is direct and indirect Three Waters increase. So I mean, how close is that to what we've said?
So if I could, through you, Your Worship, that 3.1 million is a 32% increase in the budget. If you look on page 60, the number of full-time equivalents has actually increased 41%. It's gone from 98 to 138. So it is in the same ballpark as the salary increase. There's actually a bigger increase in number of FTEs than the increase in the salary budget.
It's gone from 165 to 200.
No, that's not full-time employees, Your Worship. In the paragraph above, it has the FTE equivalents, where it's gone from 98 in 2023 to 138. So that's a more direct comparison than the table below, which includes a whole lot of part-time employees as well. So it's a more direct comparison of the number of employees in 2023 to the number of FTEs in 2024.
And through you, Your Worship, another factor in that is that the accrual for leave owing to staff has gone up by $500,000 over the year. So that is included in there as well. Even though we haven't paid it, it's included in there.
Brilliant. Further questions? Councillor Martin.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Sharon, pretty simple ones really. Page 66, Melinda Jane Audrey Foster, is that the previous councillor?
Yeah.
And we've got Gary Ian McCorkindale, who was a former community board member too. Should they be on here?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, I believe they should. There'll be one related parties for 24 and one for 23. That's why this goes for about 5 pages. The first page 61 to 63 for 24 and 64 to 66 for 23.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Further questions, Stan? If there's no questions, head into general discussion. Just so you know where I'm heading, I felt the easiest way was we're just going to take each recommendation individually. So if everyone knows that, if we start the discussion and if anyone feels is bold enough to throw a recommendation in every now and again, that'll be tickety-boo. Discussion 10, Councillor Volwell.
I'll move recommendation 1 that the council receives the adoption 2023-24 annual report summary placement.
Thank you for that. I'll second it. So all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Thank you. Feeling bold enough to keep going, Bruce?
Yes, that's nice to have that reassurance from the chair of the Risk and Assurance Committee. So I'm happy to move that council confirms the Risk and Assurance Committee chair's clearance on the annual report. So,
Moved councillor Volwell, seconded councillor Kennedy. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Right. Discussions on adopting the accounting, yeah, that's pretty simple. Someone's going to move that, I'm sure. Councillor Finch, seconded by councillor Phelps. Any discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Cheers. That we adopt the annual report and summary. Come on, Tane. Councillor Finch, seconded by councillor Herbert. Any discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Righto. We received the letter of representation.
Happy to move 5, 6 and 7.
Do we get that flamboyant? Why don't we? Righto. Councillor Finch has moved 5, 6 and 7. Seconded by councillor McCroskey. Any discussion on any of those three? Put it to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Thank you, staff. Thank you, Dave. Thank everyone for the effort that's gone into the annual report. Always good to see how our report card is. That takes us back. Thanks, Sharon. Takes us back to the agenda where we have representation review. Who put that one to give me a half?
I'll just introduce the report, but I'm going to hand over to Ben, Your Worship.
Yeah.
So councillors, Natasha, who wrote the report, is medically got some medical responsibilities, so she's handed over to us. We do have Ben here. Dale is unavailable. Sofsky, as I understand it, but there's enough of the team. So I'm just introducing the report. Let the report stand as it is, and I will let Ben answer any questions that council has, or if Ben wants to say anything before that.
Cool, Ben. Floor's yours if you want to make a comment before we go into questions.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, I like the message. We'll take the report as read. I will just quickly summarise the key points and then go to questions. So the purpose of this report is for council to adopt the final proposal of the representation review. The initial proposal was adopted back on the 26th of July, which involved reducing the number of councillors from 14 down to 9 and making boundary changes as a result, as well as retaining the 2 community boards. Since that initial proposal was made, there was public notice and a month-long submission period where anyone could make a submission on that initial proposal. Following the close of that submission period, there was a hearing held where submitters could be heard. They could have their submission heard. That was on the 12th of September. Following that hearing, council then deliberated as to whether any changes should be made to the proposal. It was determined that changes should not be made to that initial proposal, and as a result, the recommendations asked council to adopt the initial proposal as the final proposal. After the final proposal is adopted, there will be a further public notice that notifies the final proposal and again opens up a month-long period where, in this case, anyone who made a submission on the initial proposal can appeal the final proposal. If there are any appeals, then they will be forwarded to the Local Government Commission, who will review them and then make a binding determination that will be in effect for the 2025 triennial election. With that, I'll happy to take any questions or clarify any part of the report.
Thank you for that, Ben. Questions, please, Tane. Councillor Wheeler.
Thanks through you, Your Worship. Thanks, Ben. Just to be clear, Ben, that if we adopt the proposal as is, the only people who can make a submission to the Local Government Commission are those people who have submitted on the proposal.
That is correct, yes. If the initial proposal is adopted as the final proposal with no changes, then only those who made a submission on the initial proposal can make an appeal. But if there are any changes, then that opens it up to anyone to make an objection.
And so that doesn't matter then how minor a change is.
That's right, any change at all, changing the name of a ward, any boundary, number of councillors, any change would open it up.
Thank you.
Further questions, team, before we head into discussion? Ben, just, you can hang around, please, because invariably through discussions, there could be something come back to your way, but we'll open it up for discussion. Councillor Grant.
Mr. Chair, but I definitely will not be supporting this in any way or form. I personally think we've been railroaded. We went from a workshop that concluded with this, let's just see which mesh blocks we're going to change. Next thing, we're down to 9 councillors and divvying up the communities. I think it's this is probably, to paraphrase the chair, probably one of the most important decisions you make as a councillor. It's huge, and yet it's been rushed, tacked on the end of an LTP. I'm sorry, I couple that with the confusion and a couple of the questions in the consultation document. I just won't be supporting it. I just can't, and I'd suggest we revert to the status quo and review it in 2 years' time.
Can I say for my part that rushed was quite the opposite to what I felt. It's been an open and transparent process. We've gone through the various stages of it. And when it first started, I was sort of quite, and obviously we were all interested in where this was going to go. But it's one of those things that when you get it right, and the public come back, I've been overwhelmed with everyone sort of going, you know, for once, council, you've got this right. The amount of natural naysayers in the community have not come out the woodwork on this one, and yet the people that have said to me and embrace the fact that we're not, the fundamental reasons for doing it, to try and get a wider cross-section of society, which is the best thing that we can do for a democracy. The fact that we know that 15 coming around the table, I know as a mayor how many times I have to pull the handbrake on meetings that we have to have and things that we have to do just because we cannot come here. The resourcing of, I've run out of annual leave, I've run out of every blooming thing, and I'm still chugging on through it. As a group, and I really appreciated Councillor Barron's analytical approach to it, we're way overrepresented for a council our size, for the population our size. We're an outlier, but we don't notice it because we just always make things work. But we can be a far more efficient, far more representative and far better. And we banged it for once on the head. The whole consultation was very much, you've got it right. You're always going to get some that say, but we have to know in our heart of hearts where we are here. Have a look at the pictures up on the wall if you don't believe there's a history of it. And what we're doing today is just ratifying what has been a transparent process. We've slowly walked through it. The community has certainly walked through it with us and shown overwhelmingly that they're in support. So, I don't know, seems pretty straightforward to me. I see, at least we've got some hands up because when it started, we're all sitting there half asleep. Right. So I'm going to go around this way. So put your hands up again so I can get Councillor Martin, Councillor Mackie, Councillor Finch, and then someone else, Councillor McAtee.
Through you, Worship. I struggle with that statement, Councillor. The page 11 outlines details the timeline that we've had to go through this process, and it started on the 7th of December 2023. there's 8 steps to this process. I can't see how we got railroaded into this. Thank you.
Councillor Mackie.
Yeah, I don't agree with the comment of railroaded into it, but to me it seemed to come up so fast. And then I look at that, what we've just had today, we had those 2 fellas come in and they talked to us about how we can reach out and contact with the community or our district. And there are a lot of people who don't know about this. Like, the moment it's announced, it's going to be a surprise to them. And there's a lot of people who didn't fill in. They didn't know. They don't pay attention. They're not reading what they need to read, and they didn't know. I struggle with supporting it as well.
Councillor Finch McDermott.
Thank you. I've had discussions with so many people when I've said to them about it, and I didn't even know anything about it. And I'm serious. I've had so many people say that. And I say, well, you know, it could go from this to this. And they're all going, what? And they don't read. They don't, not all of them. I'm not being rude about people out there, but they don't pick up when there's a notice go out. And I honestly have had so many people say, no, I don't support that. And I said, well, you should have had a submission in. And they've said they didn't know anything about it. I can't understand how they didn't, because it's been in so many places and it's been discussed. But that's the reality out there, is that people honestly did not know about it. So to me, I can't agree with it when I've had that feedback from so many people. There's only been a couple of people when it's been brought up and said, oh yes, I did know about it. I'm absolutely stunned and amazed that they didn't, but they could have had feedback. So yeah, I won't be supporting.
Councillor McDermott.
Yeah, I also won't support the motion. I actually didn't support putting the recommendation forward at the time. I will say though that I do agree with your worship that we do need a change, and a lower number of councillors would be better, and it may offer up better representation. But through the whole process, I don't believe that we considered enough alternative options. We basically come up with one option in discussion and went with it. There were other options that we could have considered, which were never debated, and that may have been alternative numbers of councillors, 8, 10, 11, and we also never discussed what could have been different ward changes. There's a number of different ways we could have created the wards. We just went with basically what I believe is a slimmed down version of the status quo. Yeah, in principle, it's possibly not the worst concept, but I don't believe that we have given it our best shot. So I won't be supporting it.
Councillor Bill Wheeler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have some concerns about the proposal as well, but I think I will support the majority of it. Unfortunately, we're sort of constrained by the legal timelines that we have to meet in this case anyway. But I think in some ways this proposal has flown under the public's radar to a large extent. Of course, we've done our best to consult with our communities. And I guess before I was on council, I probably might have looked at the headline in the paper and done nothing further about it. Perhaps after I leave council as well, I'll probably not perhaps do the same thing, but who knows, I might be a bit more of a bother in
the
future. But so I am perhaps going to suggest further on in the proposal that we make a small change here, which would give our community the chance to, everybody get the chance to make submissions. My main concern is actually around the boundaries, particularly in the around the south end of Milton there, which sort of gone to communities really outside, just wards outside their communities of interest, really. But so to give people a chance to have a consideration of that. I mean, if we don't get any further interest, I'll just live with the proposal as it is. But my proposal would be in recommendation 9 there, and that's the community boards, and it's proposed that they elect 12 members. Well, I would propose that they elect 8 members, i.e. 4 members for each community board, because we're going to have 9 councillors around this table. Community boards each need 6 members. I know in the past Lawrence Tuapeka has had trouble. They haven't had enough nominations to fill those 6 positions. So I think that could be made more competitive too. And if a change like that was made, then that gives those community boards the opportunity, or those people who have an interest in that, to still make submissions to the Local Government Commission. It also gives the rest of our constituents, our communities, to make submissions as well to the Local Government Commission, and the Local Government Commission then make the decision. Perhaps not ideal that it's making a decision on our behalf, but it's happened in the past when an objection to a proposal to the name came up. So the Lawrence Tuapeka ward and the Local Government Commission considered that and made their decision. So that's my thoughts. Thank you, Worship.
So can I go Councillor Herbert, myself, Councillor Barron?
Oh, look, I will be, is it on to me, Your Worship?
Sorry?
Is it on? Up?
Yes.
I will be supporting it. We've followed due process here. We're legally bound to do this. We've followed due process. You can see it there as Councillor Martin explained. We've workshopped this, and if I may, I'd like to ask Councillor McAtemney, because the day we workshopped this, I think you were on Zoom, and we had an option there of kind of at large. And I thought it was you yourself who actually said we need to put some boundaries in here.
No, I was, in my opinion, I was all for it, but.
Well, I find it interesting now that you're going, because from memory, I thought you were the one who actually said that we need some boundaries to still stick to wards. I must have that wrong. But that was my recollection.
No, but not an argument here. Let's carry on.
Oh no, it interests me why. Well, I thought the option, that final option, was something that you'd been involved in, and then you've decided that. That's good. That's fine. I find it interesting.
Okay, so from my point, can I say I'm pretty disappointed? 6 years in the making. When we put our name forward, we knew, even if we didn't want to, that we had a legal obligation to do a representation review in this term. We've followed every single step of the process. As Councillor Martin said, we've pedantically gone about the steps. If you wanted to change a ward boundary, there was a day to have a discussion on that. If you wanted to, there were stages, points, everything. And I'm saddened that we're falling into this whole of, gee, no one told me, gee, I didn't know about this. We have agreed to the consultation process that we undertook. If you weren't happy with the way we were embracing the public, the day that was to be decided was the day we agreed to the consultation process, not today. Because what you're saying is there's 2 outcomes. We either go back to the start, which is an impossibility, or that gutless that we throw it over to a group that has no empathy, connection, or direct living in this district. We just throw it off to Wellington to decide. When the hell do we lose the courage to actually maintain our autonomy and our own direction? We've been through this process. If ever you thought that the consultation process wasn't right, if ever you thought the ward boundary wasn't right, or there was another option, how many stages was the Councillor Martin? 8 or something. And to get to here today, to actually, I will say, it's falling into the rabbit hole. When we're starting to talk about we need to go back and do this and that, 8 stages. We've followed the process. We've done everything because as staff and as I know that I have to follow the process. We've followed the process. we've come to the day. And Bruce, Councillor Wheeler, while I agree with you, I am not going to, firstly, there was nothing that came out of the consultation that showed me that anything other than support for the community boards in their present state should be given. And I'm not going to use that as a trigger to let someone up in Wellington take over our decision-making process for us, because we should be in control. So I'm disappointed, team, and I really want to know if you feel that we've got it wrong, you've got it wrong, because there's been a stage for you to have your say and you haven't taken it. Sorry to be so blunt. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just refreshing on the last discussion on this, where I stated that there's only 2 councils in New Zealand that have more elected members than we do. That was Auckland and Christchurch. And because I'm a ratepayer in the Selwyn District Council that has 81,000 people and it currently has 10 elected members, 1 for every 8,100 people, and 20 communities, and an area as large as the Clutha District. And they're going to go down to 8 councillors. Now, we had all the reasons why we chose, and I thought it was a done deal today, that we would go back down to 9 as we agreed. And if we don't like it, or if it doesn't work, or there's something untoward, we've got a chance in 3 years to change it again. So I think we need to hold our hands up and say, yeah, we made a decision. Let's give it a go and see how it goes. So I'll be supporting them.
Councillor wishes to say something.
Yes, Your Worship, I'm always just interested in the decision-making process and making sure that we are not subject to legal challenge or any form of challenge in terms of the decisions we take. I reference back to the workshop, and I know we don't make decisions at workshops. It wasn't the case, but here's a classic example of people at the workshop where you were deliberating over the submissions and the hearings, and that workshop gave clear direction to staff and to the team to write out the initial proposal as the final proposal, and that's what staff have done. And when you see what's been provided in here in terms of the report, the work that you did through the workshop to give that direction and give the reasoning, which has to stand up. It's given the reasoning for why the initial proposal was to be the final proposal. If council makes a different decision and says we are going to don't agree with that and make a different decision other than what you discussed at the workshop, and for which the reasons are, you have to state the reasons and your judgment that has to stand up to challenge as to why you've made the change. And the point that I would make to you is you haven't debated that. Like changing that now, you haven't debated the reason for that relative to the submissions that you received, because you haven't had the quality time to have that discussion. Your quality time to have that discussion was in the workshop after that where you gave us the direction. So I make the point that being in the team, just from a legal statutory perspective, and I'll let Ben, and I would like Ben to actually answer a couple of questions. Being in the team from a statutory perspective would have to write a different final proposal based on a totally different rationale and understanding that hasn't been debated by you. And I would find that quite challenging to do. And so I think that's something that must be borne in mind. Like the point would be, if that was your viewpoint, I seriously don't think you could make that in an unchallengeable decision, that you might have to set that aside and have another debate where you're going through, the team comes together and you go through the whole thing again to come up with a particular different decision that then can be justified and will stand challenge. And then the second, so that's one issue I'd like Ben to just say, am I right about that or am I wrong? And then secondly, what would that do to the timeframes in terms of what that would be? Because you need to know that if you're going to make a different decision. If I ask Ben to respond, you wish?
Ben.
Yes, thank you. That is right, what you have said. And the other thing I'd point out is that a resolution is required to be made, whether it is to adopt the initial proposal as the final proposal as per these recommendations, or it's something else. A resolution does need to be passed. The legal deadline for that is the 28th of October, which is Monday now. So whether it is the recommendations as they are in the report or whether it's something else, there does need to be a final resolution that is passed.
So, Your Worship, I'll just reiterate that one. Ben has just agreed that there may be subject to legal challenge if you follow a different pathway to what you've already worked your way through, and a decision needed to be made by the 28th of October. My job and Ben's job as staff is to just give you that advice, and that's all we'll say, Your Worship.
Councillor Herbert, followed by Ludham.
I'm not sitting here till the 28th of October, Your Worship. We've workshopped this, and I'm happy with where we're at, and I'm quite happy to test the water if you'd like.
I promise I'll come back to you. I've got a first time call and then I'll come back. So I'll do a whip around knowing that our recommendation's imminent and on something like this, especially first time callers.
I'm actually happy to support the recommendation as it is. I feel as though we did work through the process well. At times I've thought a lot about this actually, because over the years I've worked through a number of these representation reviews, and I have thought a lot about the process and looked at whether the 9 councillors is the idea or whether we should have done the 11. I've weighed it all up and I've looked at it, but actually I'm really in support of reducing our councillors. I think it's a good time to. I think 14 in today's world is probably too high. So if this actually turned out to be so bad that the community didn't approve or it didn't work, in 3 years this can be changed and it could go from 9 to 11. But at some point in time, we actually have to give it a go and do it. And we've certainly consulted on this. And to say that people don't know, they know about consultation that's happening and everything else that we've done in this last year around the district. That community has well and truly known if they wanted to pick up on this, they would have. They obviously chose that this wasn't important to them because they haven't really been strong. Well, to be fair, they haven't been strong against what we've proposed. So perhaps everyone's happy. So that's just my sixpence worth, but I will be supporting it. I feel as though we did consult, we've done the timelines, and yeah, let's do it.
Councillor Catherwood Kennedy.
Yeah, turning to an interesting topic. Yeah, so from what I can gather from it, I mean, I'm going to support it. I said along the way through the process where I wasn't actually too bothered either ways, is how I spoke, if I remember rightly. Through the submission process, from what I gather, it ended up being quite 50-50 from the communities of a reduction or status quo. I actually think the leader reported it was more against the proposal. But the way I read it, and I went back to my submission, and I sort of, in the verbals that came in that day, and it was still 50-50. Pretty much, I suppose, I felt a bit 50-50. But, I mean, we've got this far along. I thought there would have been a bigger, maybe a larger fight, particularly around that Milton boundary area at the time when it was discussed and it was shown on those maps. But that was a couple of processes back, and I would have thought that particular ward affected by those boundaries would have said a lot more at the time. So all in all, I mean, where I'm at, going along from where I've been throughout the process, I'm going to support this today. That's where I'm at.
Councillor Kennedy, and then I'm probably leaning back to Councillor Herbert, unless anyone has an epiphany moment.
I suppose when you look at this proposal, it puts West Otago in a dilemma. Would That's all right, we'll sort that one out. When it comes to our community boards, they were put there by our community, so I don't, I struggle that we sit around this table and everyone else has a choice there. They don't need a community board. Our community boards were well represented that day. As far as I can see, leave them alone. They're doing their jobs, so that's fine. Well, West is quite happy to take a cut down to one councillor. We'll sort it out, like I said. So, yeah, I will be voting for this.
Councillor Herbert.
Sounds like I'm out of a job in a year or so's time.
Yeah, you can take her on.
Your Worship, I am happy to move recommendations 1 through to 10 as they are written.
Come for the doctor.
Point of order, Your Worship, there might be some people who support some of the recommendations, but not all of them. So I think it's be unfair to move them on block, move recommendations, 10 recommendations individually. I'd be happy to second that.
All right, Your Worship, we'll grind our way through it. Recommendation 1, happy to move.
Seconded by me. All those in favour now. We won't do the, now let's have a wee practice because Julie's going to hold on, hang on and be digging me in the ribs. So to save my ribs, we're going to hold them high until Julie says she can drop them down. So the first one's pretty straightforward. So all we're doing is just really getting into the swing of things. All those in favour, please raise your hands until Julie. All right. Right, that's unanimous. Second one.
Happy to move, Your Worship.
Seconded by Councillor Volwela. All those in favour, please raise your hands and hold them there until. Those against, please raise your hands. Please have it. No, you are noting it. I don't ask you. Third one.
Move again, Your Worship.
Yeah, well, I'll keep going back to you and
just put me
back
down.
to you. I can see Bruce is going to second each and every one of them. Okay. So moved and seconded. Discussion on number 3. Councillor Payne, discussion.
No.
Right. So I thought I'd better assume we're splitting it down. We'll do the discussion. But on number 3, please raise your hands. If all those in favour, please raise your hands. That's unanimous. Thank you. Number 4. Move Councillor Herbert, seconded Councillor Payne. Any discussion? All those in favour, please raise your hands. There's some against, well, there's some not there, so please, all those against, please raise your hands. So you got 4. Fells, Finch, Rusty, Green light's been given. Number 5. Councillor Herbert's moved, seconded by Councillor Mackie. Any discussion? All those in favour, please raise your hands. And then down, those against, please raise your hands. Number 6, and I'm
happy to move 6.1.
Well, I was going to say the whole lot of 6. Is that what you were doing, Bruce? Sorry, Councillor Bowler.
6.1, 6.2, down to the just below the table.
Yeah. So I'll move that. John, you want the chance to second?
Okay for him to move a block. We're not.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to second that. Support Your Worship.
There you go. So we're going to move her in a second. Any discussion on it? Put to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Are we right? You're going to go, yeah. All those against, please raise your hands.
Yeah.
Number 7. John, back to me. Yeah, we're back in order again. Move Councillor Herbert, seconded Councillor Payne. Any discussion? All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, please raise your hands. Those that have abstained, please, so that we get a, so you got that? Bruce was abstained. Councillor Wheeler. What number did it get up to?
You're up to 8.
Number 8. Move Councillor Herbert. Seconded. Councillor Summons, Councillor Wheeler. Discussion? Put to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against, please. Number 9. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Discussions? Councillor Wheeler.
Well, I feel as though I was thinking the community board should be down to 4 community board members, 4 members on each community board rather than the 6, because it seems to me that we're reducing the number of councillors here, and we're saying that we're overrepresented at 14 councillors. I think, to be consistent, to be honest, my thoughts would be that those community boards of less than 2,000 people, or just on 2,000 people each, are overrepresented, having 6 members on each community board. But so that's my rationale, and that would also increase the remuneration for those community board members to make that a little more attractive. And also the third point, which I raised earlier, was that at times the community boards have not had sufficient nominations at election time to fill all 6 positions. And there has been some people have had to be approached and approached personally and tapped on the shoulder to do so. And that shouldn't be I don't think that should be what elections are about. I think there should be people willing and enthusiastic to stand and put their name up and be challenged if to be prepared to face an election as well. So rather than it just sort of being, okay, we need 6, we'll go and nominate, we'll tap on some shoulders and just get the 6. So that's my position on that anyway.
So specifically on question number 9 on this topic, any further, Councillor Herbert?
Oh, I completely disagree, Your Worship. The fact of the matter is that we didn't actually consult on this, and we didn't give the public a chance to put submissions in on this topic. And now at the 11th hour, we come out and say we're going to adjust the amount of people on community boards. The community, you may have had a vastly different answer to the submissions. I'll wait till you finish.
You were just worked out, but if you talk, we're closing the conversation. That's why I just had to check who was continue. I made a mistake and I took you without at least warning you that if you did that, close the discussion. I believe there is further discussion, so I promise I'll come back to you to close. Councillor Graham.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would suggest that with the reduction of the councillors, there's more need to retain the 6 members of the community boards to make sure that you have got a representation.
Councillor Catherwood, followed by me.
Well, I'd actually like to hear from the councillors of those affected wards, because they're quite highly involved, so I'd like them to hear Jock and Jock and Michelle, because you guys are welcome to key community boards.
Councillor Martin, then, and then Posse, and then me.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, well, we could have been there one step closer if you'd said nothing, because it was coming. Yeah. We went out for consultation, and community boards were part of that process. We had written submissions, we had verbal submissions against community boards. That was the process. was nothing to do with the numbers of the members, the numbers of the committee members on the community boards. We've already consulted on it. I don't see what the issue is that Councillor Wheeler's concerned about. And as for the shoulder tapping, there's councillors in the room who are shoulder tapped too. So what's the difference? That's democracy. People put their hand up, they've got a democratic right to, they've done it, they've exercised that right. So I don't see why there's a discussion.
Democratic process, I suppose. Councillor Kennedy, followed by me.
I could probably tick the box exactly what councillor Martin.
There's a few names, remember? There's a few names. Come to mind.
And as councillor Herbert's going to allude to, it was not in consultation about members. It was in consultation about having community boards, which I've already said, you know, it's hard to sit around this table and have everybody else sit there and judge when there's two communities that serve well and do well with their community boards. Yes, I admit there's been times where some have struggled, but if you chop those numbers down, you have to have so many at a meeting. And as we know here, sitting around this table, how many of us sometimes can't get here? So to me, no, it should not change. It stays the way it is.
I suppose for me, when I became mayor, I didn't really know much about community boards, and I saw them as, you know, similar. They're not. They're totally different. The community group that comes together as a community board is the same as we're wholly looking forward to anything else, and we ain't going to tinker with those numbers. The more the merrier. The community board, there was nothing that I saw in the consultation that said let's change numbers or do anything with them, and it's totally different than council. We get dragged in, I don't know how many times every 6 weeks. They come together once every 6 weeks, and then they might go for an evening to look around and look at a particular thing in their community. But the motivation for changes on the wider councils, it's not there for the community board. And I don't know, they seem to be a good team. It's almost like saying we'll play a game of rugby, but we'll only have 4 on the team. But it's working with the numbers that there is. And unless the community, when Lance and Westtown come back to us, beat down the door and tell us to chop the numbers down, then I'll listen. They haven't.
Thank you, Worship. So look, I'm going to support the motion as it is currently. For me, look, it's very grassroots. It's fantastic that it's there. And I'm probably covering some of the same ground, but the councillors have just pointed out, look, it comes from the community of interest. They pay for this, and if they want 6 people around the table, then so be it. So I'll be supporting it. It's current. They're a fantastic conduit for this to get to us, and it should be kept as is.
We're going to give John a go. Can we do it now?
I don't think I need to go, Your Worship. I think it's all been said for me by the previous speakers, and I would agree with what's been said. I think one of the most important things that was said was by Councillor Catherwood when he actually asked for the relevant councillors to speak on this, because those are the people that actually know this. Don't take this the wrong way, but the interaction that every other councillor has around this table with community boards is noting minutes, which we're going to do today, which literally takes seconds. There's very little interaction with councillors in the community board, so I would encourage them to come along and have a look. But I would strongly, obviously vote in favour of the recommendation. The fact of the matter is, for West Otago, we did have an election last year, and the facts are that it didn't go out for consultation. To come back now at the 11th hour and say, I think we'll actually drop the numbers just because we're dropping the number of councillors, which we've only just decided a couple of motions before that, I think is irresponsible. We didn't give our community a chance to have their say on that. So it's irresponsible to be coming out now and suggesting it.
So that closes the discussion. Right, that closes the discussion. We've got a recommendation moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. We know what it is, so all those in favour, please raise your hands and say it.
Against.
Those against? And abstaining, councillor Wheeler. Lucky last. Councillor Herbert moves.
Go on then.
Yeah, second.
Moved. Councillor Herbert, seconded. Councillor Payne, any discussion?
No.
All right, all those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against, please raise your hands. Those abstaining, please raise your hand. Those that are scratching your head and I haven't got a clue which way you went. Sorry. You had it there for all that with. For or against? Four, so okay, that's put that. Yeah. Okay, team, that brings that agenda item to a close. Thank you for that. See, your living room when you're cheering, if I had just taken Councillor Herbert's whole team, the same process would have happened and we would have got there half an hour quicker, but we went through it. It was a good discussion.
There were different voting.
Thank you, Kenny. Needed.
Excuse me,
What's-
Richard, I just got to put compare on.
Now, look, we're going to actually pull the handbrake on for Smoko because we've done two whole agenda items. So, Ben, and please pass on to your whole team. Thank you very much for your assistance through the process and your help today. Do appreciate it. Kia ora. Thank you. Page 37. Land Transport Program. Is Chris there?
No. Raymar's going to do it, Your Worship.
Kia ora, Raymar, how are you?
Yeah, well, look, I'm happy to take the report as read, Your Worship, and have Raymar's available for answering your questions. Most of this information has actually already been presented to Council in the Standing Committee. There's just a little bit more information about the actual impacts on, especially our footpath program, our low-cost, low-risk projects, which is where we fund things like Curb and Channel, as well as the major projects that are outlined in the recommendations. And also a request, which we have discussed previously, about the priority being the footpaths associated with the Milton Main Street project. But we're proposing or requesting Council consider bringing all of the 3 years worth of footpath money into the current year so they can all be resurfaced as part of that project. And that project will pretty much use all of our footpath renewal budget with NZTA over the next 3 years. So there will, unless you consider at a later stage some other sort of footpath renewal budget, there is no money left for footpath renewals with the reductions they've made to that. So sort of highlighting just those impacts to Council of those changes from the NZTA budget adjustments. And it is noted there's another report coming up further in the agenda to consider road safety. So I'm happy to take that as read. We have Raymar available to answer any technical questions.
Okay, team, before we go into discussions, any questions for any of the staff? Councillor Lumen.
In the footpath renewals, obviously the reduction in funding. So by putting it all into Milton, which is fine, are there any urgent renewals in other footpaths that are missing out? I would like to know what is being excluded and other, in what state are they in currently?
Just turn it on, Raymar.
Through your worship, I understand that we have a list of that. I don't have that currently because it's under that asset management. Because usually we have the like category 4 and 5 for those ones. We can have a look at that when available. We can get it.
I mean, it's all very well. We're agreeing to put all the funding and changing it, but we'd like to know what is actually missing out in the process so that we're sure that it's going in the right direction.
Through you, Your Worship, we had a program of about 10 years worth of work to deal with the category 4 and 5 footpaths. Obviously, with effectively very little funding available to do that work, it's going to have to come back to Council either through the annual plan or the long-term plan to make some really decisions about whether Council wants to start funding those footpaths again, or whether we can make, which we used to do about 6 years ago, all footpaths were 100% rate funded by Council. They changed the rules and then they were included as part of the assisted program. Obviously, the current GPS is changing and moving that back, and they're not funding much of that at all. So there is going to be some future discussions on whether we need to start funding them and what the process would be if you wanted to look at that. Where you decide to do that will be a decision for Council.
We are intending to bring footpath funding discussion to Council through the annual plan, because we also think that there are some inequities and some problems with the current way it works on smaller communities.
For new footpaths.
In that sense, so it can be pulled in together. Yeah.
Councillor Phelps, followed by McCrosty.
Just through the chair, just on recommendation 3, the dual laning of Collard Highway Bridge. Does that mean that it's going to be deferred until 27-30? And how far is the preparation work for that? Is it like if we said yes in 27, is it ready to go, or is it a lot of planning to be done?
Through your worship, for those projects, we usually start with a scoping process. So that scoping process is also deferred due to the number of resources that we have right now, and we're concentrating on those projects that are at a go right now.
Through you, Worship, I would also say, while we've said deferred to 27-30, the way the GPS is at the moment, it's unlikely that's going to be funded in that time frame as well. It would would need to be some changes in the funding, because they've really cut their safety spending right back down. So it's unlikely those big projects are going to, with the current priorities, are going to be coming back onto a work program anytime soon.
Councillor McCoskey.
Through the chair, in relation to the footpaths, etc., and probably for the Greater Clutha District, we were discussing budgets last time round for Stewart Reserve and Milton Streetscape and taking options. Instead of funding that all, why are we not looking at taking some of that money and just downscaling a bit? That way you are going to tidy up the main street, which to me is far better for people to walk down, push a pram, whatever, than the nice to have at the moment, and we can still help some of the other communities. Just my opinion.
Through you, Bishop, the current budget, because the streetscape was supposed to deal with the reinstatement of the footpaths, there is no funding in the streetscape budget for asphalting where the undergrounding and those gravel trenches are. So,
get rid of the streetscaping.
No, but what I'm saying is these footpath renewals, most of them are nowhere near the streetscape area. It's actually everywhere else.
That's what I'm saying, but we still need them up to speed. I think if you talk to the locals, they would rather be able to walk in peace than worry about changing that streetscape at the moment. Just my opinion.
Decision. Well, I mean, your issue, Wish, was that you debated budget. You debated a budget for the streetscape. You decided on certain actions. It is correct that when you debated on the streetscape, nobody had suggested that there was to be alternative options for that spend. Jules, in respect of the scoping for the footpath side of things. What sort of time have we got to play with for that? If alternative discussions were to be had on that, if council was of a view to have a further debate around how much should or shouldn't be used and all that side of things, and apply it to other things, the real determinant is where does it sit within the current project to upgrade? Because my understanding is we're wanting to mix it with the completion of the streetscape project. So what have we got to play with?
Through your worship, what we've done with our studies was, since there's a contractor already on site, it would be cheaper for us to piggyback on that contract because the rates are there, as opposed to having it on a later time and having another contractor. On that study, we established that there's around 30% more cost if it's not piggybacking on that existing contractor right now.
So is that like fixed term contract or not? On the both sides?
The contract that through your worship, the contract that I was talking about is the Milton Main Street under Andrew College. That's what we're piggybacking in order for us to do that footpaths.
So just following up in terms of options, does it matter, and do we have to specify where the funding has come from for that particular project? Can we just approve the project as is and still have a debate as to whether some or all of it gets funded from the streetscape project? I mean, because the issue would be, does anybody disagree that we should be doing the footpath upgrade in conjunction with Main Street? If you agree with that, then the only question is, where, if we have alternatives for funding, well, we can decide that at a later date.
So I've got Councillor Finch, Herbert, Catherine.
Thank you. I was just going to say I was on the understanding that the contracts were running to be able to save that 30%, because if we stop and then they have to come back, that was discussed in our last meeting about that. And just say to anybody, in case they're thinking Milton is grabbing it all and we don't need it, if you have a walk where it's all been dug up, it is pretty horrendous for people to try and walk on at the time with prams, with bikes, with anything. It was really, even though they've compounded it and it's been gravel, it's still really loose and it's tracking so much dust and dirt into all the shops, so it is badly needed that footpath being done.
Councillor Herbert and Catherine, what do we stick to questions and then we'll do the discussion?
So my question is, can you just remind me, this is still the same as, funded the same as the far rate? So 65% NZTA, 67, so 33% by, and that'll be by the people of Milton.
No, the 33% is funded district-wide because it's footpath renewal.
I thought footpaths were funded by the community concern.
Only new footpaths and new Cuban channel. Existing footpaths that are renewed are funded out of our overall roading budgets. Because when we do the footpath rating allocations, the assets they've got within the area get an allocation. So footpath renewals are different to new footpaths. It's that new footpath discussion where Flag will come back and discuss as part
If we start talking about taking money out of the streetscape one, now we're talking about unsubsidised.
That's for a future discussion.
Yeah, well, we're up to date, but yeah, so no, thank you. That's clear.
Yeah.
Councillor Catherine.
Pretty positive. It's a question about subsidisation. So therefore, probably the wisest decision is to use it up and subsidise at 67. How often does that get reviewed, Jules? That far? Could that come out of the blue and have a reduction? Yeah. Is everything else from government being reduced at the moment?
It would normally, it's just been confirmed for the next 3-year program. So yes, if it's going to be reviewed, it's unlikely to be changed for this 3-year National Land Transport Program. But it is reviewed every 3 years, and it could well be reviewed in the future and go down. We do have probably, other than the Chatham Islands, one of the best fare rates in the country. It's right up there in terms of compared to other councils. And it's calculated based on a number of factors, including your capital value in your district, your length of your network, and all those sorts of things. So there's a range of factors that flow into it.
So Councillor Kennedy, and then just the statement from myself, I suppose, of follow-up.
Just a question on number 3 there about the dual laning of the highway to the bridge. Is that in the right thing, being in a low risk? Or do we need an accident or something before it becomes highlighted?
Through you, Your Worship, we have repeated accidents there with trucks getting stuck under the railway bridge. The project was to realign the whole road and put it lower down around the river, so that issue doesn't exist. It's probably about every 5 years we have a truck getting stuck under that bridge, just because it's a low. And that is the right category, because that low cost, low risk is really where safety improvements are funded. And that's why the government's cut it back so drastically, because they've changed the priority from safety to other factors.
Yeah, it's usually the same driver that's the only problem. But just before we head into general discussion, just for new councillors, that there's always been an unwritten wrong. It wasn't unwritten, it was specifically stated to me by previous Minister Stephen Joyce. The fare rate is determined by the council's ability to pay. You want to go away and do unsubsidised roading, you've just told me that you've got a greater ability to pay, and we'll see you next time round. So we need to be looking at this in more than just what are we doing. If we head off into unsubsidised, no one's told me there's been a change to that rule. So, and we were very happy with the fare rating when it came through the last time. Okay, so if we've exhausted the questions, we're into discussions, and that is open for discussion. Can I say that, you know, and all the time we've all been here, what's the number one thing that people ask us about? Footpaths.
Yeah.
Then there's the safety. We have a moral obligation to maintain safety, and the new theme is cycleways. There's a certain sector of society that's really keen on them. The present government has made a categorical statement that's reflected on this, that they are not prepared to pay for it. It's them that have obliterated their budget. If that's known to our public, that yeah, our commitment to footpaths, to safety and roading was clearly shown in our 10-year work program. We have not obliterated it, they have. I am really nervous that at our peril, we go away and pick up the slack, because what they've just said is, don't do it. And if you want to go away and do it, well, all right, we'll see you with a fare rating, matey. How many times, was anyone? Oh, Jock was there. We were there when the Prime Minister said roads, which I sort of would have thought was footpaths and that, but they clearly stated. Are we going to listen or are we going to not? Councillor Lydon.
I don't think we've got a choice, actually. We've been guided from above, I guess, without doubt from above, and I'd actually be prepared to recommend all 4 recommendations.
Yep. I'll hold and hover on that, Ellie. I'll come back to you, but we'll just have a general discussion before we have it. Otherwise, we won't have had a fair whack at it. Councillor Volwheeler.
Sure, I've just got a question through your worship, just on the table at the bottom of page 38 there, we've got the NZTA amount is 60 million. Sorry. Is that just the NZTA, or does that include the council's 33% as well? So that's
that's the total roading program, including our share.
Right.
Thank you. 4 million.
Yeah, sorry, that NZTA is the NZTA approved budgets.
Yeah.
So the CDC was our LTP that we requested, and the approved budgets is that. And in terms of, there are some positives. It shows that the government, the NZTA, have only had a 0.7 reduction in our pothole prevention categories, which is they have set as a priority. So that's most of our operations. The same with local road operations, only a 5.7 reduction. So the bulk of the reductions have happened in the areas where we're highlighting. So that means that the base maintenance stuff is actually funded by NZTA.
Thank goodness.
Was there another hand up? Or I am going to go back to Ellie for recommendations. Okay, I'm going back to Ellie.
And I'll second them.
So you're moving, move Councillor Ludeman, second, and Councillor Finch. Specifically, is there any discussion before we put to the vote?
Sorry, just another question then, because when we've gone out with our LTP and we've set our rates for this year based on the $66,000. I believe we took 15% off for.
No, we took 2.7 million off. The 15% was in our 3 waters, but so we have made a reduction this year. We moved it to year 3, but in what has actually happened is we didn't get $2 million a year, so our guesstimate of how much they might not fund wasn't too far away. So yeah, we've got time in the annual plan process to adjust those rates to reflect the approved amount. And that the absolute reason we took that $2.7 million off the rates and forward loaded it was because we thought this was actually quite likely to happen.
So just further to that then, so we're not overrating for this year in our roading budget?
No, and there was, before we had the flood event, through you, Your Worship, we were debating about asking for that $700,000 to be brought back into the current year, because we were going to be losing $2 million in each of those future years as well. However, at this stage, it's too early to know that, because there's going to be additional repair works, at least over $1 million already estimated for our roading repair works. So it's going to be a matter of what capacity has the contractor got to do that, as well as the base work. So it's too early at this stage for us to say, hey, we need that this year or whatever. So we need to get that emergency works underway, which we're pretty confident with all the data we've got to date that will qualify for effectively an application to NZTA for additional funding for that. We have to fund our share, so then there's a discussion about whether we fund our share of that $1 million from our deferred roading maintenance fund or from the emergency fund or whatever, but that's for a further discussion with council at a later point in time.
And the following 2 years for rating, does that look as though we've overrated as well? Or?
Well, we haven't rated those years yet through Your Worship, so well, it'll be adjusted through the annual plan. So the current budgets that have been approved will then be worked through the annual plan process. So that extra $2.7 million we move from year 1 to year 3, that'll come out because we're dropping by $2 million anyway. So the annual plan gives us a chance to adjust those future years and realign it with the approved budgets. And the other thing to remember is, even though it's a drop of $10 million a year, we only pay for rates only pay for $1 out of every 3.
I will say that it really frustrates me that, we know the requests that we get from our communities, and to penny pinch at this level, to sacrifice the safety on the road for what is a tiny amount. They've obliterated our budgets. They've obliterated our commitment to our communities. And it's got to be known, when people go, where's my footpath? I know where the answer is now. We were committed to footpaths, and now we have no choice. I'm sitting there, it frustrates the hell out of me that I'm going to have to vote for it. But we've got no choice, as I see it. Is there anything before we vote? Anywhere? Right, Councillor Erdman and Finch have moved and seconded. For the sake of Julie, please, all those in favour, raise your hands and hold them there for a bit. That's a lot of us. I think we start, yeah, we do. Righto, team, we'll whip through a few of them here. Procedural, on page 43, we've got the minutes from the 12th of September to be approved, council meeting. I'll move them, second, and councillor Finch, all those in favour.
Page 45, move councillors XXXX. Right, that's okay.
Yeah, that was just us blowing kisses to you.
Good.
I
appreciate it.
Confirmation of representation review hearing minutes on the same day. Move councillor Herbert, second, councillor Phelps. All those in favour? Those against. Regulatory and community. Held on 10th October, councillor Finch and councillor Ludeman. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. Corporate and policy. Move councillor Ludeman, second, and councillor Phelps. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. Infrastructure, strategy and operations, also on the 10th of October. Councillor Martin, seconded. Councillor Payne, all those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, thank you. Risk and assurance, noting the meeting on the 10th. Move councillor Herbert, seconded councillor Kennedy, all those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. Youth council noting on the 23rd of September. Move councillor Payne, seconded councillor Finch, all those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. Noting of the West Otago Community Board minutes. Move
There's a wee correction there, I think, when I get down to it, once I stop being dizzy, your worship.
Me too.
Item 9 on page 96. It's got Cindy Latterly, should be Cindy Harlowich. See it under item 9? 1, 2, 3, about the fifth sentence.
But with that change, you happy to move it?
Happy to move it.
Seconded councillor Kennedy, all those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. Lawrence. Move councillor Martin for noting, seconded councillor Kennedy, all those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. My mayoral report, firstly, 17th of October. Can I say, like, I'm really encouraged by what I've seen of the professionalism and passion that David's putting into the new task as our independent chair, and I appreciate his efforts. 26th of September, community pool, community session. Thank you everyone that was there and supporting. Both the afternoon and the night one, appreciate the support. 2nd of October, wouldn't it need to have that thank you and celebration of our community champions? To have that night where you're surrounded with so many positive people, it was a tonic. So that's my report. We're whipping around the table for councillors' reports. Start with councillor Cathwood.
Just local pools and obviously a pretty large flood event down home the other week there with significant slips. I ended up dealing with all sorts of wee funny little situations throughout that weekend. We had a Caitlin's catchment meeting conducted with ORC and the local community group involved in that. And we also had a little Silver Peaks meeting.
Thank you, Dane. Councillor Volwell.
Thanks, Your Worship. 17th of September, the Otago Corrections Facility Community Liaison Group meeting. We had a tour of the site, Prison Director and Deputy Director. It was very interesting. Same day, while we're looking forward, the 18th of September, met with the chair of the Risk and Insurance Committee, David Ward, and 19th was a citizenship ceremony here at Te Pou. And unfortunately, I was away for a couple of weeks. I missed a couple of significant events with the consultation, Milton consultation, and the community plan get together and the flooding. But I was back for the committee meetings on the Thursday the 10th of September, and then also went to the Otago South River Care Group AGM last week.
Thank you, Bruce. Councillor Martin.
September was quite busy actually. Like it's the Te Maruata, they have online weekly Zooms with members all over the country, mainly involved in the North Island. So there's weekly opportunities there to catch up with. There's the whole report, which is all the people throughout the network. And then after the representation reviews that we actually had that night, we had our own. So yeah, between them and the community board executive, and then your local stuff, community boards and swimming pools and every other little organisation, yes. Plenty to do, sport for choice.
Thank you, Chuck. Councillor Ludeman.
Community Development AGM, Rec Centre AGM, the citizenship ceremony, the Air Place community celebration, and all the other council meetings, and that's what I can remember. So I know it's been a busy month.
Thank you, Ali. Councillor Mackie.
Community board, high school reunion, the water, the pool and library in Milton. If you drive through Clinton, you'll see that the triangle's been revamped. They had a big working bee there on Saturday, which I didn't make it to because I had a correspondent refresher, but they've done a fantastic job with the new bit of equipment that's in there, 2 new things, and it's looking great. Nice, beautiful wooden sign that they put up. And, yes, that's where that Better Off funding, all that money's been spent. So, yeah, got a good group, and they've certainly got into it on Saturday.
Excellent. Thank you, Brent. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. On the 18th of the 9th, I had my first meeting with David Ward. Next day, we had the citizenship ceremony. 25th, we had the Westhaven Community Board. The next day, I had the Milton consultation, which I went to both of those events, which I thought were run pretty well and went pretty good. 29th, I had an inspection of Patterson's Creek, followed on from the public forum at the community board. And the 2nd and the 3rd of the 10th, spent a fair bit of time looking at floodwater around West Otago, as it was flooding there as well as everywhere else. And that one of those evenings was also that community volunteers event, which I thought was fantastic. So that was me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillor Graham.
Yeah, just the normal council stuff, meeting with Dave Ward, Kai Promo, an RTC meeting in Dunedin, and I attended the afternoon Milton Pool consultation information after.
Thank you, Bruce. Councillor Park.
Thank you, Worship. No particular order. A couple of council meetings, Age Concern Executive in Dunedin, Clutha Parks Trust, all the council meetings, Risk Assurance, PCG, David Ward, etc. Also attended Clash of the Colleges, the Citizenship, the Otago Community Trust AGM. We also went to, I went down to the local businesses after the flooding, and just on the Monday morning, just had to talk to everybody, and I was pleasantly surprised that they obviously had a cooling period after a couple of days, and things had cleaned up pretty well for them. So they certainly weren't happy, but temperament wasn't too bad, I'd have to say. I also did an interview with RNZ, Radio New Zealand, regarding the flooding at Telford, community project volunteers evening, a couple of Tupoma meetings, and the information sessions at Milton as well. So it's been really busy few weeks. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Ken. Councillor McCluskey.
Council meetings, meeting at Gaston Park, Wahola, Milton Dog Park, Wahola looking forward, and then went to one of their working bees. Relocation of road signs for the flooding. In other words, I flogged them off another place and delivered them to the police. 2 Milton Pool meetings and the Airplace projects evening.
Thank you, Dean. Councillor Finch.
Thank you. On the 17th of September, met Mike and Kelly at where the dog park's going to be in Milton, and this thing's moving there, and hopefully it's going to come off and be good. Youth Council workshop and meeting on the 23rd. On the 24th, back to the dog park with Mike. 25th, Tari Mouth, and we were walking around looking at the park and seeing the front where the boulders have been for the sea washing in. So that was really good meeting that we had over that. The 26th, the 2 pool consults, and thank you everybody that turned up for that. That was really good. We were impressed. Thank you. October the 3rd, had a meeting trying to get hanging baskets in Milton. 7th, workshop with the Youth Council to sort out our formal that we're going to run. On the 8th, Clutha Foundation Trust. Something on the 9th, can't remember. On the 11th, met about the hanging baskets again. And on the 10th, we set up for the formal in the hall. And as usual, the usual youth councillors turned up that are the workers, and then there was a few excuses from other ones and whatnot, and it went off extremely well. Those that did attend, they were all well dressed, well behaved. There was no worries about not having any alcohol there. It was amazing how many people were drinking just water, not even the juice or the fizzy. And they all said that they would certainly pass on and come back again if it was on again. It was really, really good. 14th, audit finance risk at the museum, and also did the march for the Dunedin Hospital, and was really, really impressed by all the speakers and how many people did turn up. That it was really wonderful to be part of. I also had the radio ring me up for an interview over the flooding, and I said, have you not spoken to council staff and that? So, yeah, that was done as well.
Thank you, Gavin. Councillor McTavish.
I think I had a Greenfield scheme meeting earlier, those couple of events that you home the citizenship and the communities one. Milton Pool and a lot of lambing.
Especially in the weather.
And I'm very pleased that my daughter behaved herself at that youth council pool.
Was that what she told you? Beautiful.
I just told them.
Thank you, Simon. Councillor Fowles.
Your Worship, September the 24th, I attended the Targa Community Trust AGM at Te Poma. 26th, the Milton Pool evening. October the 1st, Clutha Development AGM at Te Poma. And on the 2nd of October was the Community Thank You Evening, which was really nice to attend, something really positive, and to listen to everyone there talking positive, and just it was a real treat, and there's talk of doing it again, but it was good to be at something positive. On October the 5th, had the flood event, and because I was only one in Belcleuth, I got called in to help at the rec centre for the welfare, but luckily it wasn't needed this time around. But just wanted to commend the staff down there and up here. I called up here on Saturday, and I just wanted to mention, what I saw was really impressive. I want to thank the staff because I know they had put their hours in, and a lot of people don't get to see that. So I just wanted to mention to Steve and the team, well done. And I won't dwell on that. And on Saturday, I also went down to the businesses in Francis Street because quite a few of them were quite heated, and they were quite pleased to see someone. And so I went around most of them, and again on Sunday morning to quite a few. And last night was just a Nash Park Committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Councillor Kennedy.
Sorry, we should just also thank Councillor Phelps for being acting mayor for a period of time for the emergency declaration.
I thought I had it all covered.
Usual council meetings, and I had a bit of a stint away in Aussie to look after a couple of granddaughters, so that was pretty full on and busy. arrived back in time. Luckily, I missed the flooding. When somebody rang me about emergency, I said, I'm in Perth. I don't think emergency warrants me. But come home to some nice ratepayers that were a bit concerned about water, but got that nearly sorted, I feel. Met with our new risk and insurance chair, and yesterday it was lovely to go to the opening of the Bill Henderson wing. So that's the new 6 beds that were added onto the rest home. So yeah, it was lovely to see the building and the new wing, and yeah, all beds are fully occupied.
The Bill who wing?
Henderson, gentleman that passed away and left everything to.
Oh, nice. Okay, thanks, Michelle. Councillor Barron.
Thank you. Council meetings, Milton Pool meeting. I was away for a week and come back after the rain on the Sunday and went down the Francis Street area, and the business people I spoke to were most appreciative that you'd been down there the day before and helped and done what you did, and had discussions with them. I think one thing that I will share is that I'm on the, I go to the South Otago AMP Society meetings, and the AMP show in Clutha loses about $20,000 a year, and they get it from community grants. They get 20,000 and they lose 20,000. They don't make money. It's a community show. But this year they applied for 13. They usually applied for 2 grants, 13 and 6, about 19,000. They applied for the 13 and they only got 3. So might tell you what's going on out there a little bit. So we had a plan to put signage up and do a nice sign and some other activities, but it's all been canned. Yeah, David Ward meeting. That's it.
Thank you, Kevin. Questions, councillors to councillors. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, it's probably for Jules or Steve. The review on the flooding, when is that taking place, and when will the affected parties down there know about it, or what's the story?
Yeah, I was actually on the phone this morning arranging that, so we're looking to arrange a meeting and have one of their senior engineers come in to commence that review next week. We're just finalising the date. So yeah, that'll, once we've got a day sorted out for that, we will email around councillors, so if they do want to touch base, they'll have an opportunity of catching up. So yeah, looking to kick that off next week.
We've identified the availability and appointed an independent person. So when Jules said senior engineers, it's not one of council staff. No, it's an independent.
Fluid Solutions from Dunedin, one of the senior engineers coming down to look at it independently.
Will they be going around the affected flooded?
Yeah, we're looking to have the intention is to have a meeting first, so everyone can get feedback about the timing and the event from everybody all at once, and then go and individually talk to any for additional information, rather than having a half-hour discussion about the timing of the event with everybody as they go around. So the intention is we'll maybe making contact with 1 or 2 businesses down there and seeing if they've got a big enough room to have an initial meeting, and then individual site visits after that.
Will we be able to attend?
The intention was not to attend, have staff or councillors attend that, and the reason for that is just to ensure that they feel absolutely free to have a frank and honest discussion about their opinions, and that they're not saying something because there was a council staff member or an elected representative there. I did discuss that with the engineer this morning, and she said, on balance, probably makes sense not to have anyone there for that. But we will definitely want the opportunity for elected representatives to have a discussion with the feedback from their perspective of the event to the engineer, so they're getting all the information.
There's not only that one, Jules, there's the wider, when do we get the chance for the, at midnight, but they're only up by 24 hours was one.
There's another debrief for the civil defence activation for the whole event, and we're probably looking at having that in about 4 weeks. just because there's some key staff will be away and we want to make sure they're here for that debrief. So the intention is that I want to get that in diaries soon, so everyone knows that's coming up, but that will also include our other civil defence partners, as well as all of our learnings from the event as well. So we're just talking about dates for that one at the moment, and that'll be the feedback to other parties. Have been in contact with the regional council through you, Your Worship, and they're doing some work on the event from how big was this event across the whole of Otago, and they're going to share that information with us.
Councillor Finch, followed by Luke.
Thank you. Back Road is and was closed early, and there's never any signs. I know there's not enough signs for the whole district, but when I rung the information centre library and asked, did they want a hand from me or anything, when I rung back later on in the afternoon to check in again, they said there had been several people there wanting to get to Dunedin and it had been shut off the road by then. And some local lovely person, I don't know who, said, I can take you round Berwick, round the back way. And so they came round past Back Road and then carried on. And when I was talking to Karen, she said, they're just back now. And I had a lot of vehicles coming and going along Back Road, and there was a juicy van and everything. Because those people don't have access to the CDC website, how do they actually know that the road is shut? Because there was 14 lots of water to go through just from my house to get to Milton along Back Road, not going any of the other roads. So how do they find out those things? Because there was a lot of people coming and going as after the road was shut.
These are things that are going to have to come up at the meeting, because we had State Highway 1 shut for an hour and a half and no one bothered to give a hoot.
Yeah.
Just kept on coming and someone's going to get killed.
Yeah, just really.
But it's to be brought up at that. So write it down and remember it. Ellie.
This is probably sound almost nothing to do with flooding, but I don't know where else to say it, so I'm going to say it here. It does actually have something to do with the flooding. I was at the Community Foundation conference the last 2 days, and I went to a breakout session on emergency relief funding. And you might be interested to know that Taranaki Foundation, if you like to go onto their website, you'll probably see that they're asking for donations for Dunedin towards the flooding. So I just thought it was a good chance to add that here. So it's something community foundations are kind of trying to get up right through the country. But Taranaki Foundation, who are one of the ones that are up and going, have been asking, there's a piece on their website that you can donate to Dunedin. And they have communicated with the Dunedin. So I just thought I'd chuck it in here. I mean, we didn't get to that stage, but that's kind of what is happening. So had you probably got to a little bit worse, you might have found the likes of Taranaki Foundation would have on their website. If people wanted to, they could donate.
Remind me how long Taranaki's had their one going for the emergency?
Well, they're all getting them geared up.
But Taranaki's had it for a couple of years.
No, they've only all only had it up since the
oh yes, since
yeah. But I just thought I would just let you know that.
So firstly, thanks to everyone that covered for me. I pretty much straight away declared and did an airplane and went to Aussie. I was certainly getting hit up, and Mark Patterson was up here on the Friday morning or something, and he had arranged 50,000 for Waitaki Dunedin here, but that was specifically rural. And I kept on getting hit up. I've got no mandate. Just I can't go. Oh yeah, I'll do. What can I do? So it left me really. There was no reserve fund, something set aside, and I certainly didn't feel I had the right to say, yeah, I'll set up a $20,000 Merrill relief fund, because there's probably 14 other people that might not agree. So I stuck. But I suppose there's still the opportunity if somehow you want to add to the debt by putting it towards something.
Well, it's probably got too late, but I just thought I would kind of highlight what actually is happening out there, because I mean, there was a paper to come to council, like Clutha Foundation had now got an emergency relief fund up and going. I was actually in Wellington, so I thought, geez, I hope I don't have to activate. I was seriously thinking about making contact. Do I activate it? It didn't kind of get to that stage, but yeah. But what I'm saying is, obviously, the foundations out there, once they all get up and going, Taranaki did put it on their website. I don't know, is it still on there?
Can't find it on their site.
Sorry, well, he showed it to us yesterday, but
Might have been earlier on.
it might have been earlier on. So, and he had been in discussion with Dunedin.
It was one of those steps too far, because it's, when you get rung up by a person and they're adamant, they come up with an idea, why don't you do a marathon? What with?
Yeah.
Our money,
Well,
our
yes.
debt, I haven't got the authority to do it on your
Yeah,
behalf, so
understood.
maybe it's something that we look at if you want to have it, but I don't think it was right.
Sorry, Brian, what's the point of having two when Clutha Foundation, we've got it up and running?
There was no Clutha Foundation money that I knew of, people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is now, the first time I've heard of it now, but right then,
No, well,
I
it
don't
hadn't
know.
actually been activated as such. And it wasn't kind of needed to be because we were one step away. But listen, that is just, I really was just letting you know that.
so thank you for your help for anyone that did fill in for me while I was gone, and write down your notes so that they're fresh still in your mind for when we have the meeting. Any further questions?
Just one in the site, so if we finish with the flooding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
There's an official information request here from the Waimakariri District Council.
Is that over in Steve's report though?
Yes, Steve, yes, sorry.
We're not there yet.
Not there yet.
Brian, you had great pleasure with that, didn't you?
I know, I just helped the guy. So just to close this one off, you will see on 16th of October, Chloe Swarbridge. No, I never saw her. So I just saw that written down there. That's wrong, so scribble that out. We're going round. I need someone to move and second. Move Councillor Herbert, second, and Councillor Phelps. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Now we'll move on to the Chief Executive's report.
So we take that read, your worship, to answer any questions.
Councillor McTammany.
Yeah, I was just curious as to why the Waimakariri District Council would make an OIA request rather than just talk to our council if they wanted some information.
Because through your worship, if they're going to go and spread the net to get information, they do it through the Lagoima provisions, then you're required to get an answer within a certain time frame. So that's one way of guaranteeing an answer, I suspect.
Okay.
Wasn't anything out of the
No,
ordinary
it
of the
doesn't
request,
look-
was there, Di?
Doesn't look like it. I was just wondering why they just bring someone up and hey, yeah, okay.
Any further questions? Are we getting, is there a point, Steve, where we have, you have done 7 Lagoimas on 7, it's almost bantering you or something. Are you able to stop answering? This isn't request, this is
Well,
part of the psychosis.
I get to see all the requests at some point, and Di receives them first, and we discuss, and we can, in terms of filtering, if there's to be anything along those lines. But at the end of the day, there's nothing in there so far that's suggested vexatious, frivolous, or whatever. So we just have to deal with them. Yeah, and I did say to Di the other day when we discussed it, is that the Ombudsman has made it very clear that there's an expectation that councils are open and transparent with their information. So I think there's a pretty high bar we would have to reach to be able to say, because if we say that, where it's going to next. It's the Ombudsman. I just, and my personal view is, if we're going to reject something, we want to do it legally correctly. That is subject, that will stand up to challenge. I personally wouldn't like to, lose an appeal to the Ombudsman on a vexatious related one, because it just means that person wins the case, doesn't it? So we're just careful around that side of it and tend to answer it where it's a legitimate question.
Councillor Finn.
You just discussing the Ombudsman, we had a few things sent to the Ombudsman through the long-term plan process. Have you received back from that?
To your worship, no, we've had, and I understand what you're saying, is that there has been suggestions that we are being challenged to the Ombudsman, but we haven't received anything from the Ombudsman, and sometimes they don't go past that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Councillor Brown.
The Ombudsman was on the TV this morning, you just there.
Right.
6,000 requests more than last year or something. He's inundated with requests. They can't handle them.
Stupid.
Those ones.
Right, we've got recommendation back a couple of pages on 109. Move councillor Finch, seconded councillor Catherwood. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. Documents for consent and seal, I'll move it. Seconded councillor Catherwood. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. Then we have reasons to move into non-public.
So happy to move.
Move councillor Finch, seconded by councillor Martin. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? My apologies.